So I always find it interesting to see the concept car that leads up to the production car. So in this video I have the R55 Concept, and of course I have the F54 Concept later in the video. So as you can see on screen, we have the R55 Concept car, and as you can see, very different from the production vehicle. It is a much more dynamic car. Naturally it's surrounded by classic minis because you have to have classic minis when you're doing a concept car on a mini. But some of the styling cues are very reminiscent of the R55. You can tell it's definitely of that generation, but there's some stuff on that that looks like it came from the current generation Mini or led to the inspiration that created the current Mini. But the styling cues are just really interesting. For one, those recessed grille lights are kind of neat. The retractable concealed projectors on the headlights are kind of an odd thing. I don't know how they could have implemented that into a production car. The roof lights are interesting. I got the feeling that they had initially intended this car to be more of an SUV crossover kind of vehicle than a hatchback style wagon vehicle. Some of the styling cues are actually more reminiscent of the Countryman, as you can see with that side scuttle. Notice how the door lines kind of sweep all the way down to the scuttle though. See, this is where I think it was meant to be a utilitarian vehicle in a way, or the concept at least was meant to be utilitarian. It's just an interesting vehicle and how it's set up. If you noticed earlier, the hood scoop is even molded into the hood. It's not actually an independent piece like you had with the current cars. And there's that scuttle again, and as you can see, this is very R60 Countryman styling. There's the trademark barn doors. For all intents and purposes, you can look at it and you can definitely see Clubman. Obviously the club door is missing from the side of the vehicle. Dynamically speaking, it is a very interesting vehicle. I think that they might have missed an opportunity to create a more dynamic looking car with using this platform, using this concept. The styling cues are definitely more along the lines of an SUV, and as you can see, some of the body panels, there's no way they could have put that in production because they all look like they're one piece. There's the taillights that we all know and love. I'm not sure what that emblem is though, that's an odd thing. I guess it's reminiscent of the Monte Carlo rally cars. This car I think looks like it was meant to sort of be a modern equivalent of a pace vehicle or a chase car for a rally. And that wheel doesn't even match the wheels that are on the car, which is kind of amusing. But the wheels are also massive by comparison. Concept cars naturally are always experimental, they're always unique, what people could do with the styling if they had the money to do it, and none of it ever ends up in production usually. The styling gets very close, but none of this other weird stuff. Like you notice there's no pillar in the center of the barn doors. Although from a cargo standpoint, you can carry that much in the back of a Clubman. The C-pillars are also much thicker. Interior-wise, you see a lot of the elements still. This is very futuristic from an element standpoint, but still characteristic of the Mini. The seats look like they're floating in the interior. This looks more Countryman than Clubman, even though this is the concept car for the Clubman. So I have a feeling they borrowed detailing from the Clubman concept when they created the Countryman. Now that's an interesting thing with the gauges. I don't know how that would even work as a production car. The elements are quintessential Mini, obviously. Toggle switches for the dome lights. Is that a cup holder? Just so we're clear, while I am filming what I'm saying about this, I'm watching it. So you're getting my actual thoughts on everything related to this car as it's being filmed. So it's yes, it is a cup holder, okay. But yes, you're getting my actual thoughts. You're not getting a script here. This is actually me watching the video and talking to you. Okay, so an onboard toolkit and what looks like binoculars and tool trays. So this was supposed to be kind of a chase vehicle for a rally car. I guess that's what the concept is designed for. Interesting looking seats. They look fairly comfortable. Nice shiny wrenches. Very, very white and simple lined interior. There's even a stopwatch on the steering wheel. That's kind of interesting. So apparently that's where you stick the key. Yep, it's a stopwatch. I have no clue why it's right there, though. If you turn the steering wheel, you're not going to be able to see it. This is interesting. Fire extinguisher. Lots of red and white. I'm not sure when this car was launched, but I know that they were developing the Clubman around the time that the first generation Mini was out, so this could have been a concept car done in about 2006. I don't have the information on me at the moment. Lots of LED lighting inside there. Floating door handles. Lots of floating material. See, some of these styling cues were incorporated into the second gen Minis. So this could have been a styling exercise. Very interesting though. There's even a descent gauge right there, so I think an incline, yeah, so this was intended to be an SUV kind of almost. This looks like it's reminiscent of the Chrono Pack. And then you have navigation built in there as well. I don't know if that's functional. So now we switch over to the F54 Clubman. Now the funny thing about F54 Clubmans, or the funny thing about the third gen Minis, is they released the concept car right after they actually released or started development of the production car. So this was a concept that they developed after the fact usually. But the styling is very identical. No trim rings around the headlights though, that's kind of strange. But the styling lines are very similar and they carry over to the production car very well, but that's largely because they took the production car and made it look like a concept car. But I really like it actually. I think this is a pretty stylish vehicle. I think they could have actually gone even further with this car. I like the integrated fog lights into the front bumper beam. I think the color is actually burgundy with a melting silver roof, it looks like. Huge wheels, very dynamic looking car. Recessed door handles, now there's something we don't see. The mirrors are tied in with the scuttle. That actually looks pretty sharp. I think they could have done that on the current car. Those are probably like 19s or 20s. I'm going to say probably 20s. You notice how low slung the car is. It's very muscular looking, angular looking, aggressive looking, whatever you want to call it. It's a very aggressive looking, sleek wagon is what I'm looking at here. It's very stylish, really. I really like it, actually. What's unfortunate right here is this is actually making me like this Clubman I've been looking at as possibly trading in my current Clubman for. Now, I like that roof. I wish they had actually done that. And see, what's interesting here, you notice the back doors are open. When we get to that, I'll show you in a second, but it's kind of a funny detail that I don't know why they didn't do it with the actual production car, but I think I remember that it had something to do with it wouldn't work, structurally speaking, but we'll get to that as soon as we get to there. You can see LED lighting around the windshield area and around the grille, or around the dashboard. It's a very smooth detailing car. Very modern. So there's the rear. Center exit exhaust. Now see the doors. Notice how the wing is integrated into the doors. I read somewhere that they thought about doing that, but they couldn't do it. They couldn't make the production car work that way, so they had to make the wing fixed and then make the doors functional. But it's an interesting look, but I think that Mini made the right move and that it would have just been too complicated to make that work. As cool as it would have looked, it just would have been too difficult to make it work. At least make it work in a way that it would look right. Now, they imagined this car as a gentleman's cruiser, so obviously the suit and tie in the hat, or in the trunk area, is indicative of what they had intended the car to become. I like the detailing, though. I don't know how that glass sunroof would have worked, though. The sunshades wouldn't have worked with it, the way it's designed. Now, I'm not sure how they did that wing again. They keep going back to it. I think there's a cut in it that allowed it to do what they wanted it to do, but I just think in the end, it just didn't work. Now, if you notice, this is a big OCD thing for me. The Clubman badge on the rear of the car is off-centered because they couldn't line it up centered correctly, so that's one thing that just bugs the heck out of me, but otherwise it's not terrible. It's just one of those things I look at and I'm going like, why couldn't you have centered that? And obviously there is a reason why, but maybe if they adjusted the spacing a little bit, it might have made that work. I like the little detail with the Mini logo inside the taillights. That's nice. Overall, the car is basically identical to the production vehicle. They just did a lot of different styling changes. I think if they had actually built it similar to this, it might have been an even better car because it looks less cartoony, less stylized. It looks very sleek in here. It looks very thought out and intentional. The door handles even line up along the same lines as the mirrors, as the wing mirrors, which looks very nice. The aesthetic is there. The body lines are there. Those are very sharp looking wheels. I think there is a wheel similar to that. It's a very, very nice car. But now that we've seen the exterior, I want to see what the interior looks like in this concept car. So we're going to head to that right now. Okay. Well, that dashboard looks very similar to the production car, but obviously there's some differences there. They used a lot of LED in there. Interesting steering wheel. The color combinations are kind of strange, but they seem to work. The silver on the exterior and the burgundy, but then you go in the interior and it's blue. Lots of shades of blue. The floating center console I kind of like. I wish they had actually done that. The seats look incredibly comfortable, but they do not look like seats you would find in a typical production car. They look like something you would find in higher-end supercars. Almost looks like an LED, not LED, almost looks like a hologram center dash. With the touch panel right there. I don't think that would have worked as a production, though. The blue, I don't think is leather. I think it's actually suede. It's a very... The interior has a very aviation aesthetic. I actually really like it. I like that aesthetic. It gives it a... It's refined, but at the same time, fun. And... I don't know. This, I don't know why. This is making me want that burgundy Clubman I looked at the other day. And I think it's just because the aesthetic is very refined, very grown up. And I like it. It's really pretty. I wish they had actually implemented some of this. In fact, the LCI one, they actually did implement some of this detailing. But some of this just goes way beyond what would have made sense for a production car. This is stuff that's way ahead of the 2016 launch year for this car. But I could see them doing stuff like this. It's really interesting. It's really well thought out. The coloring works, the detailing works. I like this. I wish they had actually done this with the production car, but they didn't. But I would have loved to have seen detailing like this in the production car. I think it would have been, the overall aesthetic would have been fantastic to look at. And it looks like it's incredibly comfortable to ride in too. Yep, there's that storage trunk again. So there's your Nikes or New Balance. Those are your New Balance shoes. And then your James Bond suit. So apparently this car was designed for James Bond to drive. But anywho, that was pretty fun. I hope you all enjoyed that. And as always, life is too short to drive a boring car, so drive a Mini. And if you want to see more Clubman videos, I got lots more coming up after this one, so why don't you check out one of the playlists, go over there, join me, and we'll have a little bit of fun.